From age 19 to 28, I was living life just checking boxes to achieve goals that I thought I wanted. I was climbing the corporate ladder while also always having a side hustle. I was a homeowner and a real estate investor. I was engaged with a plan to get married and have kids before 30. I was doing everything that I thought would make me happy and make me successful because it was what I was taught from my immigrant parents, who deeply cared about my future, but maybe a little bit too much. Objectively speaking, I achieved a lot in my 20s. I checked almost every box on my list, but I was fucking miserable, I was soulless, I didn't feel proud or happy of any of my achievements, and I constantly felt disconnected from myself. Deep down, I had this intense anxiety all throughout my 20s that was attached to this idea of me having to obtain all these things on this list before I turned 30, because of a deeply rooted scarcity mindset that was ingrained into me through my immigrant parent upbringing. So one day, I did everything that would give any Asian parent an immediate heart attack. I decided to flip my life completely upside down. I broke off my engagement, I sold my home and my properties, and I moved into an apartment by myself. It was definitely built up from many years of succumbing to hustle culture, burning out but never really recovering, and constantly spinning on a hamster wheel to achieve everything on my checklist before I turned 30. And overnight, I became the biggest worry to my parents. Every time I hung out with my parents or spoke to them on the phone, they would never talk to me about anything, how it's important for me to settle down and find a partner soon and have kids, and constantly just reminding me of my biological clock. And over time, I started to really hate hanging around them, and I started to distance myself from them, and it definitely took its toll on our relationship. Because in their eyes, I wasn't doing what a good Chinese daughter should be doing at her age. After tearing my whole life down, I spent many months rebuilding myself from scratch, and I created a 4-pillar protocol to rewire my mindset, rebuild myself back up, and to actually build the life that I want for myself. I'll break down that protocol later, but first, let me tell you what happened after I decided to uproot my life. Turning my life upside down was the best decision of my life. It was like I finally took off these contacts that had been in my eyes for way too long. I realized that I actually never needed contacts. I actually had 20/20 vision all along. For once in my life, I started to do things that I wanted to do for myself. I started to accept that I was different and that the life that I was living wasn't going to be a traditional Asian girl life. And I started to actually ask myself, what is the life that I want to build for myself, regardless of what people or my parents think of me or what narrative I've been taught growing up. And even though I had become a disappointment to my parents, I felt like I was actually connecting with myself for the first time. And I started to have different perspectives of things that used to be on my checklist. I realized I didn't want to have kids before 30. I also didn't want to live in a house in the suburbs. And I also didn't want to climb the corporate ladder anymore. All these things that I grew up thinking that I wanted, I finally lifted the curtain and realized that these things were what my parents wanted. But I just went along with it and I never questioned it. The year after my huge life shift, it was like new energies were coming into my life. I met my current partner, who now I have an incredible relationship with, and he's someone who has a different cultural background from me, which growing up, my parents had always wanted me to date the same ethnicity. I also left the corporate world to pursue content creation. I was thriving in the city, meeting new people. I finally got my own puppy that I've been dreaming of for forever. I started to discover my personal style, my interests, my preferences. I also traveled all over the world and I got to experience so many new countries. Now, it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies. There were many moments that I was down, depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, questioning whether I made the right decision, dealing with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and scarcity mindset. So you might be wondering, what's the fucking problem then? Well, you know how I mentioned that I left the corporate world to pursue my own thing? Well, that was a grind, and I actually ended up leaving the brand that I had built for the past 4 years. I was a cannabis content creator, making educational content, recipes, and I decided to completely stop doing that because I no longer resonated with the topic, nor did I use cannabis anymore. I have a whole video that gives the backstory of that journey, so be sure to watch that there. So now I'm officially 30 years old and I'm feeling fucking overwhelmed, exhausted. What's next for me career-wise? I've done so much internal reflection, so much journaling, so much inner child work, and being introspective is great and all, but it doesn't get you results. At this point, I just need to start taking some action. I'm not gonna be able to think my way into a career or a purpose. I have to actually do stuff. I just need to channel my skills and my energy into something that I actually give a shit about. I realize that this journey that I'm on to rebuild my career can't just be about figuring out my career. My career, aka what I do in my life, it's deeply tied to my sense of self-worth and value. And that actually needs to change. And especially as an Asian woman, you're basically taught that if you're not married and you don't have kids, then you're not contributing value to society. So in my mind, because I don't have those things and I don't necessarily know what I'm doing career-wise, it puts me in a mindset that I'm not a valuable add to society, but that's not true. So in the last 3 months during my reflection stage, I've tested a bunch of different lifestyle, wellness, mental things to see what is actually gonna help me change my life and rewire my brain to a more positive mindset, and what will ultimately help me get back on track with rebuilding myself and my career. I truly believe that by following my plan consistently, I'm gonna be able to boost up my self-worth, my self-confidence, and self-trust over time, which in turn will help me with figuring out what I wanna do next with my career and myself and my life. I call this the choose yourself protocol, and it's made up of 4 pillars that are meant to work in parallel together. Think of this protocol like a car. You have to have all 4 wheels of the car working together in synergy. The 4 pillars are mindset reset, health routine, saying yes, and self-rediscovery. If you grew up with immigrant parents, and if they're also Asian parents, you probably have a lot of rewiring of your brain to do, because there are so many things that have been ingrained to us from our parents that we don't even realize are impacting our decisions, the way we think, the way we act on a day-to-day. With mindset reset, it's all about rewiring your own brain to be believing in yourself more and to gain different perspectives of what you want for your life. Number 1 is affirmations and meditation. It's been a great thing for my mindset because over time I am noticing that the more I hear positive thoughts about myself, the more I actually believe it. The second part of mindset reset is I actually use ChatGPT as my therapist. I've done therapy on and off for a few years, and I'll be honest, it gets expensive. And sometimes I find that when you talk too much about a problem, it almost makes the problem worse. So nowadays, if I'm ever thinking about something or just want to talk something through, I actually just call my best friends and ask them for support. But if you don't have someone to lean on from an emotional perspective, all you have to do is just tell ChatGPT that you want them to be your own personal therapist. I like to train my ChatGPT to be a little bit more blunt and direct and kind of cut through the bullshit. ChatGPT has said some pretty raw, honest shit that kind of got me thinking sometimes. And the third part of mindset reset has been reading these 2 books that have helped me with some of my negative thought patterns and inner child work. The first book is Artist Ways from Julia Cameron. This book is more like a workbook, and it's really been helpful in helping me rediscover and recover from my career burnout, from my creative burnout. And you basically go through all these different prompts and you're essentially kind of doing homework, but it's very fun and enjoyable homework. The next book is Mind Your Body from Nicole Sachs. Nicole basically teaches a program to help you relieve your chronic pain and anxiety through journal speak. It's basically a form of journaling, but it's a very guided approach in how you do it, where you actually dig into your inner child, you dig into your past. The second pillar is locking in that health routine. The first thing that has made a really huge impact in my health routine is weekly sauna and cold plunge. The reason why sauna and cold plunge has helped me mentally is because it's the one time a week where I'm fully disconnected from the world, from my phone, from people, by myself, with my own thoughts, and I feel the most clear during this time. Cold plunging helps me believe that I can do anything. A few months ago, I could barely even do a minute, and now I'm doing 2-3 minutes, no problem. It's just a mind over matter thing. So when I get out of that cold plunge and I've achieved the 2-3 minute mark, I realize that it's not that bad. If I can do that, I can literally do anything. So over time, this has really gave me more confidence in myself because I feel like a badass and I'm able to do hard things. And it's almost a positive reinforcement that I'm getting every week that I'm going. The second part of my health routine is doing things that are good for my gut and my nervous system. Over the years of the hustle culture life that I lived, I fucked up my gut and my nervous system. In the past, my health routine was about, oh, I'm gonna work out and eat healthy because I wanna look a certain way. I've evolved now to the point where I'm happy with my body and happy with where I am. Focus is actually on longevity, doing healthy things so that I can be healthy, whereas it used to be very vain for me. So with my gut and nervous system, I've gone through a whole fucking journey with this. I've spent thousands of dollars on tests and supplements and all that shit. And now I'm just saying, fuck that shit. These are the 6 things that I only care about. Number 1 is sleep, actually getting proper sleep and actually letting yourself wind down. Number 2 is exercising, but moderately. I'm no longer trying to lift the heaviest shit in the gym. I'm just working out to move my body, build strength, and and flexibility. Number 3 is eating right. I used to eat a lot of like oats, smoothies, raw salads, all that kind of stuff. And those things are healthy, but it just wasn't working for my microbiome. So I'm really just focused on eating more simple Asian foods because it's what sits well with my body and my microbiome. Just because people on TikTok and Instagram are eating these healthy westernized meals, it doesn't mean that it's healthy for me. Number 4 is slow living. I am that person that will literally power walk for no reason. So sometimes literally I have to remind myself to slow the fuck down. Cooking, getting unready for bed, slowing down a bit and not rushing to optimize, rushing to be efficient. Number 5, actually chewing my food properly. And what's important is also to not eat distracted. If you are someone that is always trying to scarf down your meal so you can quickly get back to work, oftentimes we're eating our lunch while being on our phone, while scrolling, while answering emails. So your body's not properly digesting the food. And the last thing is dopamine detox. So it's really been about setting boundaries that I do not scroll at nighttime, and that instead of watching short form content, I'm immersing myself with longer form content, whether it's YouTube or podcasts, and I'm not always trying to listen or watch on 1.52x speed. And the last part of my health routine is I'm actually starting to pay attention to the health of my vagus nerve. The vagus nerve carries signals from your heart to your brain to your digestive system, and it's a huge part of your parasympathetic nervous system. So for the past decade, I've always had tension here and here. I'm trying to stimulate my vagus nerve more so that I can open up these channels again and reactivate my parasympathetic nervous system. And for us type A anxious people, generally this is something that we have a hard time with activating because our body is constantly in fight or flight mode. And the different ways that I actively practice this through breath work, humming, and singing. The third pillar is called saying yes. Saying yes is all about getting outside of your comfort zone and welcoming new people, new places, and new energies into your life. What I've started doing is actually reaching out to local Toronto content creator girlies and just asking them to meet up in real life for coffee. Keep in mind, these are people that are well vetted, they're legit people, I trust them, and so it's always safe meetups, so make sure you're not meeting up with creepy weirdos. If we vibe, that's great, and if it doesn't, it's okay, we had a nice coffee. All of the meetups have been positive, the conversations were flowing, and every time I hung out with these people, I felt this new sense of energy, like this energy source. I started to feel more positive. I started to feel like I was finding my people. The other thing I started doing is literally finding events that are in my city and going to them. Get some new perspectives, get some new creative ideas flowing. It can even be as simple as just taking a pottery class and going to that and going by yourself, because you never know who you're gonna meet. You never know what inspiration is gonna come up to you that day. And the last thing I've been doing is saying yes to opportunities that come onto my plate. I met up with a past client of mine. I was just telling him about my rebrand and my pivot. And since that conversation and connecting with this person, he's opened up so many new opportunities and doors for me. He opened my eyes about potentially starting a social media management agency. So that's kind of been what I'm exploring right now. And even if it's not something that I'm 100% certain that I want to do, at least I'm trying it out to see if it works for me. And who knows, maybe it is something that I'm going to really enjoy doing, but I never would know unless I try. And with the past few months of just saying yes to opportunities, yes to new experiences, I experienced so much abundance coming into my life. It's like the universe is literally feeding me. It's literally like, hey, here's something you might want to try. Do you want it? And I'm like, yes, let me try. And the fourth pillar is self-rediscovery. Self-discovery is all about playing, exploring, and learning to have fun again. It pains me to say this, but I don't think I know how to have fun and I don't know how to play. Like, yeah, I'll go to concerts and I'll have fun. I'll spend time with my partner or in travel and we'll have fun. But on a personal level, I don't really have, I guess you could say, a hobby or something that allows me to get lost in it. Having fun and playing is not only just healing for your inner child, this helps you build up self-confidence, self-worth, self-trust over time. But basically what I've been doing to try to prompt self-rediscovery and finding a hobby that I enjoy or something that I like doing is just trying all different things. So I've been doing pottery, I've been doing Lego. So if you want a list of hobbies that you could potentially explore and try out to fuel that inner child, here is that list for you. And the last part of self-discovery is not buying any more self-help books and instead buying books that are different than what you normally would buy and read. I was just going down this rabbit hole of constantly in the business and self-help section. I really just try to diversify the content that I see now so that I don't get trapped in a certain narrative or a mindset. I've been following this protocol for months and I'm already seeing huge progress in terms of my mental health, my physical health, my sense of self-worth. But I also need to be honest and real and share the truth about about rebuilding yourself. Number one, you're gonna lose friends, you're going to drift apart from people who you used to be close with. And that's okay, because you're gonna make new friends and be with new energies that better align with who you are now as a person and what your interests are. Number two, you're gonna have to make many sacrifices in your life, but it's gonna be worth it in the long term. Number three, you're gonna change in ways that you didn't expect. It's like if you evolved into a new Pokemon, one day you're just gonna wake up and be like, oh wow, I'm kind of pretty different now. For me personally, I've noticed this the most in my physical appearance and how I present myself to the world, but also my personal interest. For example, I used to be really into succumbing to Western beauty standards or getting the latest thing that everyone else had, whether it was a bag or clothes or a certain style, and just chasing those trends. But now, as I'm starting to rediscover myself, I'm realizing that being different is good and it's okay. And I'm really starting to embrace the core of who I am. I'm starting to embrace more of my natural Asian features, and that it's okay if I don't have long eyelashes. I'm starting to embrace my natural black hair. As you become more confident in yourself and rebuild that self-trust and worth, you become more in tune with your body and you feel more proud to be in the body that you're in. As cheesy as it sounds, it's never too late to rebuild your life. The worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And I'm gonna be honest, every day I have moments of self-doubt. And some days I'm completely in the rut, questioning myself and being like, did I make the right decision? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just stick to one thing and stick with it for the rest of my life? Those thoughts come to my head all the fucking time. You have to be your own cheerleader. Nobody else is gonna cheer you on except for you. And if it makes you feel any better, there's lots of other YouTube creator girlies that are also going through the same thing. And that tells me that we're not alone. We have the power to make a change. It just takes time, effort, and consistency. And if you're ready to stop living a life that isn't serving you, join me on this rebuilding journey and let's figure this shit out together.